Sometimes the truth doesn't knock. It waits until you've taken everything that wasn't yours, and then it lets itself in. The chandelier light spilled across the Caldwell penthouse in a warm, golden wash, catching on crystal glasses and polished silver like tiny, controlled flames, the kind that made everything look perfect from a distance, the kind that hid what didn't belong. Lily Monroe sat at the head of the dining table, her back straight, her fingers lightly wrapped around the stem of a wine glass she hadn't touched, her reflection flickering in the surface as if even the glass wasn't sure who she was supposed to be. Across from her, a little boy, 5 years old, small shoulders tucked into a tailored navy sweater, pushed peas across his plate with quiet focus, the soft clink of his fork the only sound cutting through the carefully arranged silence. "You should finish your dinner, Noah," she said, her voice gentle, practiced, the kind of softness that had taken effort to learn. The boy glanced up, just for a second, his eyes searching her face, not for permission, not for defiance, just for something that never quite landed. "Yes, Lily," he answered, the pause before her name so slight it could have been missed, but not by her. Not by anyone who knew what it meant when a child chose a name instead of a title. At the far end of the table, Ethan Caldwell adjusted his cufflinks, the quiet click of metal against metal sharp in the air, his presence filling the room without ever raising his voice, without ever needing to. He didn't look at Lily when he spoke. "Board meeting ran long. We'll be traveling next week." His tone was flat, efficient, the same tone he used in interviews, in negotiations, in rooms where numbers mattered more than people. Lily nodded, even though he wasn't watching. The walls held framed photographs, carefully selected, carefully placed. Ethan standing beside her at galas, at charity events, at places where the world believed in the story they were selling. What wasn't on those walls was just as loud. No trace of the woman who used to live here. No trace of Ava Carter. The name didn't exist in this space, not in photos, not in conversation, not in memory, at least not the kind anyone was allowed to speak. The doorbell rang. Once. Clean. Precise. Not hesitant, not rushed. The kind of ring that assumed it would be answered. A house like this had staff, but tonight the hall remained still, as if even the house itself was waiting to see who would move first. Ethan didn't lift his head. Lily set her glass down, the base touching the table with a soft, final sound, and stood. Her heels clicked against the marble floor as she crossed the distance, each step echoing slightly louder than it should have, like the room was stretching the moment on purpose. When she opened the door, there was no one standing there. Just a package, medium-sized, matte black, no return address, no label beyond her name, printed in clean, unremarkable font. Lily Monroe. Nothing else. No city, no sender, just her name, like whoever sent it already knew it would reach her. For a second, she didn't move. The hallway light flickered once, then steadied, casting a pale glow over the box at her feet. She bent slowly, fingers brushing the surface, feeling the weight of it. Solid, intentional. Not a mistake. Not an accident. Behind her, the soft scrape of a chair. Ethan's voice carried from the dining room. Calm, uninterested. "What is it?" Lily straightened, the package now in her hands, heavier than it should have been for something so quiet. She looked down at it again, at her own name staring back at her like it had been waiting. And somewhere, far beneath the polished floors and curated silence, something shifted, subtle, but certain. "I don't know," she said. And for the first time that night, her voice wasn't practiced. The box rested on the kitchen island like it had always belonged there, its edges sharp against the soft glow of the overhead lights, its silence louder than the hum of the city 30 floors below. Lily did not open it right away. She set it down carefully, aligning it with the marble veins as if order could soften whatever waited inside. Ethan stepped into the room moments later, his footsteps measured, his presence controlled, the faint scent of his cologne trailing behind him like a signature. He glanced at the package once, then at her, his expression unchanged. "Who sent it?" he asked. Lily shook her head. "There is no return address." Ethan reached for it, turning it slightly, scanning every corner with the same precision he used when reviewing contracts. Nothing. No branding, no courier mark, no mistake. Just intention. He placed it back down. "Then it is either irrelevant or deliberate," he said flatly. "Open it." Lily's fingers hovered over the lid. then pulled back for a fraction of a second, a hesitation so brief it could have been dismissed as nothing, but it was not nothing. It was instinct. It was recognition without proof. She lifted the lid slowly. Inside, there was no letter. No explanation. Just a single manila envelope, thick, sealed, and beneath it, a smaller object wrapped in white paper. The air in the room shifted, subtle but undeniable, like something unseen had stepped closer. Lily picked up the envelope first. It was heavier than it should have been for paper, dense with something that did not feel optional. Her name was written across the front again. The same clean font, the same certainty. No emotion, no decoration, just Lily Monroe. Ethan watched her, silent, his gaze steady, but there was a slight tightening in his jaw now, a detail only visible if you knew where to look. Open it, he repeated, softer this time, but no less firm. Lily slid her finger under the seal. The sound it made as it tore open was small, controlled, but in the quiet kitchen it landed like a line being crossed. She pulled out the contents slowly. Documents. Several pages, neatly stacked, clipped together with a black binder clip. The first page was a formal report. Medical, clinical, the kind of formatting that left no room for interpretation. Her eyes moved across the header, then froze. For a moment, she did not breathe. Ethan stepped closer. What is it? He asked. Lily did not answer immediately. Her fingers tightened around the paper, the edges bending slightly under the pressure. Then she looked up at him, and for the first time since he had known her, there was no practiced composure in her expression. Only something raw. It is about Noah, she said quietly. The name settled into the space between them, heavier than before. Ethan's posture shifted, not outwardly, not in a way most people would notice, but enough. What about him? Lily turned the page. Another report. Another set of results. Dates. Signatures. Verified. Official. She swallowed. These are DNA records, she said, her voice steadier now, but thinner. From 5 years ago. Ethan's eyes flicked. Down to the documents, then back to her. We have already established that, he said. That was handled in court. Lily shook her head slowly. No, she said. This was never presented in court. The words did not rise, did not break, but they landed with precision. Ethan's hand moved toward the papers, but Lily pulled them slightly back, not in defiance, not in anger, but in instinct, like she needed one more second before letting him see. There is more, she added. Her gaze dropped to the smaller wrapped object still sitting in the box. The white paper was folded with care, the edges clean, deliberate. Lily reached for it, her movements slower now, more aware, like each second mattered in a way she did not yet understand. She unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a small flash drive. Plain. Black. No label. No marking. Just another piece of something that did not arrive by accident. The kitchen felt different now. The light the same, the space unchanged, but the air no longer neutral. It held weight. It held history. Ethan extended his hand. Give it to me, he said. Lily looked at the drive, then at him, then back at the documents in her other hand. And for the first time, a thought surfaced that she had never allowed herself before. Not when she married him. Not when she moved into this home. Not even when Noah hesitated before calling her anything at all. The thought was quiet, but it was clear. Maybe this life had not started the way she believed it did. Maybe it had been handed to her already broken. And whatever was inside that drive was not sent to hurt her. It was sent to wake her up. The flash drive felt colder than it should have in Ethan's hand, its smooth surface catching the overhead light for a brief second before disappearing into his grip, as if even it did not want to be seen for too long. He did not rush. He never rushed. Instead, he moved with that same controlled precision, walking to the built-in desk along the far wall where a sleek laptop sat closed, untouched since earlier that evening. The soft click of it opening cut through the silence, followed by the faint hum of the system waking up, a quiet, mechanical breath that seemed louder now that the room itself had gone still. Lily remained by the island, the documents still in her hand, her eyes fixed on Ethan but no longer reading him the way she used to, no longer assuming that his stillness meant certainty. It felt different now, like stillness could hide something, like control could be a cover. Ethan inserted the drive. The screen flickered once, then steadied, casting a cool, pale glow across his face, sharpening every angle, every line, every detail that made him look untouchable in boardrooms and interviews. A folder appeared. No name, no label, just a single file inside. He hesitated for the smallest fraction of a second, then clicked. The video opened without delay. It was not dramatic, not cinematic, no music, no edits, just a fixed camera angle, slightly grainy, like security footage or a phone placed on a flat surface. A room came into view. Neutral walls, a desk, 2 chairs, a woman sitting on one side. Ava. Lily's breath caught, not loudly, not enough to echo, but enough to change the air in her chest. Ava Carter looked exactly as Lily remembered her, and nothing like the version that had been erased from this home. Her posture was straight, her hands folded calmly in her lap, her expression composed in a way that did not invite sympathy, only attention. Across from her sat a man in a dark suit. Not Ethan, a lawyer. His voice came through the speakers, clear, measured. For the record, please state your name. Ava did not rush her answer. Ava Carter. No hesitation, no tremor, just truth. The lawyer nodded slightly. You understand that signing this agreement will transfer full custody to Mr. Caldwell? A pause. Not from confusion, from choice. Ava's eyes did not drop. I understand what the document says, she replied. And you are agreeing to it voluntarily? The room seemed to tighten around that question. Ava's fingers moved slightly, not fidgeting, just grounding. Then she spoke again, her voice steady, but carrying something beneath it that did not belong to surrender. I am agreeing because I was told this is the only way my son will not grow up in a courtroom. Lily's grip on the documents tightened. Ethan's jaw shifted, just slightly, the muscle there tightening before settling again. On the screen, the lawyer leaned forward a fraction. To clarify, no one is forcing you to sign. Ava held his gaze. No one is holding a pen to my hand, she said. But let us not pretend this is a choice without consequence. Silence followed. Real silence. Not the curated kind that filled the penthouse, but the kind that made words heavier once they finally arrived. The video continued. The lawyer slid a document across the table. Ava looked at it, then signed. No dramatic pause. No visible breakdown. Just a single, deliberate motion. Then she placed the pen down and sat back, her shoulders still straight, her expression unchanged. But her eyes did not belong to someone who had lost. They belonged to someone who had decided something far bigger than what that room could contain. The video ended abruptly. The screen returned to stillness. No explanation. No closing statement. Just the quiet reflection of Ethan's face staring back at himself. Behind him, Lily took a slow step forward. The sound of her heel against marble was softer now. Almost cautious, like she was walking into something she could not step out of. You told me she gave him up, she said, her voice low, controlled, but no longer certain. Ethan did not turn immediately. His eyes remained on the screen, on the faint outline of his own reflection. She signed the papers, he replied. The answer was clean, technically correct, but something about it no longer landed the same way. Lily swallowed, her gaze drifting back to the documents in her hand, then to the laptop, then finally to him. That is not the same thing, she said quietly. And this time, the silence that followed did not belong to control. It belonged to truth waiting to be acknowledged. The silence did not break all at once. It stretched, thin and fragile, across the space between them until even the smallest movement felt like it might tear it apart. And for the first time since Lily Monroe had stepped into this home, she realized that what she had always called calm had never really been peace. It had been control, and control was only quiet until something stronger stepped into the room. Ethan finally turned, slow, deliberate, his expression composed but no longer untouched, the edges of it sharper now, like something beneath had shifted just enough to be seen if someone was looking closely enough, and Lily was looking now in a way she had never allowed herself to before. You are reacting to a recording taken out of context, he said, his voice steady, measured, each word placed exactly where he wanted it. But there was a faint tightness beneath it, something that did not belong to confidence, but to calculation. Lily did not respond immediately, her eyes drifting back to the laptop screen as if the image might still be there, as if Ava Carter might still be sitting in that chair, calm, unshaken, refusing to collapse even when the world around her had already decided she should. Out of context, Lily repeated quietly, not as a question, not even as a challenge. but as if she were testing how the words felt when spoken out loud, and they did not fit the way they used to. She took another step forward, the documents still in her hand, and placed them on the desk beside the laptop, flattening them with her palm as if grounding herself in something real. You said she left, she continued, her voice still low, but clearer now, less practiced, more present. You said she chose to walk away from both of you. Ethan's gaze did not waver. She signed away custody, he replied. That is the only fact that matters. But even as he said it, the weight of the video lingered in the room, unspoken but impossible to ignore, and Lily felt it pressing against her chest in a way that made it harder to breathe evenly. She shook her head slowly. That is not what I saw, she said. What I saw was a woman being given one version of the future and told there was no other way. Ethan's expression hardened, not visibly to most, but enough, a subtle tightening around his eyes, a stillness that no longer felt neutral. Careful, Lily, he said, quieter now, but the warning in his tone did not need volume. You are stepping into a situation you do not fully understand. For a moment, that version of him, the one who controlled rooms, who redirected conversations with a single sentence, who made uncertainty feel like error, almost worked. Almost. But then Lily's eyes dropped to the flash drive still resting beside the laptop, small, unremarkable, and yet heavy enough to tilt everything she thought she knew, and something inside her did not step back this time. It leaned in. Then help me understand, she said, and there was no softness in it now, no attempt to smooth the moment over, just a quiet insistence that did not ask for permission. The words hung there, simple, but they changed the shape of the room. Ethan did not answer right away. His gaze flicked briefly to the screen, then to the documents, then back to her, as if measuring what had already been revealed against what still remained hidden. The city lights beyond the windows flickered in the background, distant and indifferent, a reminder that the world outside this penthouse was still moving, still unaware of the shift happening inside it. From down the hallway, a small sound broke through, soft footsteps against hardwood, uneven but steady. Noah. He appeared at the edge of the kitchen, one hand lightly resting against the wall as he looked toward them, his eyes moving from Lily to Ethan, then to the unfamiliar tension that neither of them had yet learned how to hide. Are you coming back? He asked quietly, his voice small but clear, the kind of question that did not know it was walking into something bigger than itself. Lily turned toward him instinctively, her expression softening for just a second, but the softness did not reach all the way through the uncertainty now sitting behind her eyes. In a minute, she said gently. Noah nodded, but he did not leave right away. He looked at Ethan, then back at Lily, and for a moment, there was that pause again, that slight hesitation before belonging chose where to land. Then he turned and walked back down the hallway, his footsteps fading into the quiet. When the sound disappeared, the silence returned, but it was no longer the same silence as before. It carried something now, something that had already begun to change direction. Lily faced Ethan again, her posture straighter, her gaze steadier, no longer searching him for answers, but holding him to them. She sent this to me, she said, her voice calm, but no longer uncertain. Not to you. Ethan did not deny it. He did not confirm it. But the absence of either was answer enough. Lily's fingers curled slightly against the edge of the desk, not from fear, but from realization. Which means, she continued slowly, each word placed with care, whatever comes next, was never meant to stay buried. And this time, Ethan did not interrupt her. He only watched, and for the first time since the package arrived, control did not look like certainty. It looked like something slipping, quiet, but inevitable. The air did not settle after her words. It tightened, like the room itself was holding its breath, waiting to see which version of the truth would survive what came next. And for the first time since Lily Monroe had stepped into this life, she was no longer standing inside it as someone chosen, but as someone placed, and that difference was beginning to show in the way she looked at everything around her. Ethan did not move immediately, but the stillness around him had changed, no longer effortless, no longer invisible. Now it felt deliberate, constructed, like something being held together instead of something naturally unshaken. His eyes dropped briefly to the documents again, then to the flash drive, then back to Lily, calculating, not reacting, but the calculation itself had become visible, and that alone shifted the balance between them. You are assuming intent, he said finally, his tone controlled, but no longer neutral. You are building a narrative from fragments. Lily did not step back. She did not raise her voice. She simply held his gaze in a way that made the space between them feel smaller, sharper. No, she said quietly. I am recognizing one. The words did not land loudly, but they stayed. They settled into the room in a way that could not be redirected, and for a moment, even Ethan did not answer. Lily's attention shifted again, not to him, but to the screen, to the empty reflection where Ava had just been minutes ago, and something about that absence felt louder than any confrontation could have been. She did not send this to fight you, Lily continued, more to the room than to him now. She sent it to me. Her fingers brushed lightly against the edge of the desk, grounding, steady. Which means she already knows you will not change your version of the story. Ethan exhaled slowly, the sound controlled, measured, but it carried a weight now, a recognition that this conversation was no longer following a path he could predict with certainty. And what exactly do you think you have discovered? He asked, not sharply, but with a precision that suggested he was no longer dismissing her. Lily did not answer right away. Instead, she reached for the documents again, lifting the first page, scanning it once more, but this time not as someone searching for information, but as someone confirming what she already felt. I think, she said slowly, that the life I walked into was already rewritten before I ever arrived. The words were simple, but they shifted everything. Ethan's jaw tightened again, slightly more this time, enough that it did not go unnoticed. Be careful with conclusions, he replied. They tend to collapse under incomplete information. Lily's eyes lifted back to him, steady, clear. Then complete it, she said. The request was not emotional. It was not pleading. It was something else entirely. A line drawn without raising a hand. The city lights beyond the glass stretched out behind him, distant, indifferent, but inside the room, the distance between them had narrowed into something that could not be ignored. For a moment, it looked like Ethan might respond the way he always had, with a statement that closed the conversation, with authority that did not invite continuation. But this time, he did not speak immediately. Instead, his gaze shifted, not to Lily, not to the documents, but down the hallway where Noah had disappeared, where a small, quiet life continued, unaware of the truth being rearranged just a few steps away. That pause said more than anything else could have. Lily followed his glance, and for a second, something softened in her expression, not toward him, but toward the situation, toward the realization that whatever this truth was, it did not only belong to adults making decisions in quiet rooms. It belonged to a child who had been taught to adjust before he ever understood why. Does he know? She asked, her voice lower now, but not fragile, just careful. Ethan's eyes returned to her. He knows what he needs to know, he answered. The response was immediate, practiced, but this time it did not land as reassurance. It landed as limitation. Lily nodded slowly, absorbing it, not accepting it. That is not the same thing, she said. The repetition carried more weight now, because it was no longer just about Ava, or the documents, or the video. It was about everything that had been simplified until it fit into a version of the truth that only worked for one person. She set the documents back down, aligning them again with quiet precision, but the gesture no longer felt like control, it felt like preparation. She is not trying to take him back, Lily added, her voice steady. If she wanted to do that, she would have gone to court. Ethan did not interrupt. Lily continued. She is doing something else. A pause. Just enough for the meaning to settle. She is making sure I see what you chose not to show me. The room did not react, but the shift was undeniable. Ethan's silence stretched again, but this time it did not feel like dominance. It felt like something being weighed, something being reconsidered. Lily took a small step back, not retreating, but creating space, as if the truth needed room to fully arrive. So I am going to ask you one more time, she said, her tone calm, but anchored in something that did not move easily. Not as your wife. Not as someone standing in your house. Her eyes held his, unwavering now, but as the person she trusted this to. A breath passed between them, quiet but full. What did you leave out? And this time, the question did not sound like doubt. It sounded like certainty waiting for confirmation. The question did not echo, but it settled, deep and unmovable. pressing into the space between them with a weight that could not be redirected or dismissed. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan Caldwell did not answer immediately, not because he did not have one, but because the version he had always used no longer fit the moment standing in front of him. His gaze held Lily's, steady, controlled, but something behind it had shifted, something quieter, something that did not belong to authority but to recognition, and that difference changed everything about how his silence felt. The city lights behind him flickered against the glass, reflections layering over his figure, blurring the edges of certainty he had always carried so easily. And for a moment, he looked less like the man who built systems and more like someone standing inside one that had begun to turn on him. "You are assuming there is something missing," he said finally, his voice lower now, not sharper, not defensive, but measured in a different way, like he was choosing each word more carefully than before. Lily did not move. She did not interrupt. She simply waited, and the waiting itself became an answer. Ethan exhaled slowly, his hand lifting to rest against the back of the chair beside him, fingers tightening slightly against the leather, grounding himself in something physical, something controlled. "She was leaving," he continued, his eyes not breaking from hers. "That is the part you have not seen." Lily's expression did not change, but something in her attention sharpened, focused, as if the room had narrowed down to only what mattered. "Leaving how?" she asked. The question was quiet, but it did not soften anything. Ethan's jaw shifted again, a small movement, but this time he did not hide it. "She was preparing to take him," he said. "Out of state. Without discussion. Without agreement." The words landed with structure, with logic, the kind that could hold up in a courtroom, the kind that had likely been used before, but something about them did not settle the way they were meant to. Lily's eyes flickered, not with doubt, but with calculation of her own now, piecing together what had been shown and what had been said, measuring the space between them. "And you stopped her," she said. Ethan did not nod, did not confirm directly, but the absence of denial filled the space just the same. "I protected my son," he replied. The statement was firm, grounded, but this time it did not close the conversation. It opened something else. Lily's gaze dropped briefly, not in retreat, but in thought, tracing the line of the desk, the edge of the documents, the flash drive still resting beside the laptop, silent, but no longer passive. "That is not what the video showed," she said. Ethan's voice came without delay this time. "Because that video was not the whole situation." Lily looked up again, her eyes steady, but there was something different in them now, not confusion, not even conflict, but clarity forming in layers. "Then why did she not fight it?" she asked. The question did not accuse. It did not challenge. It simply existed, and in its simplicity, it became harder to avoid. Ethan's posture shifted again, just slightly, his shoulders drawing back, his stance tightening, as if the answer required something more than control. "Because she believed it would harm him," he said. The words came. Slower now, less polished, less constructed. She believed a legal battle would drag him through something he did not deserve. Lily held his gaze, and for a moment, something almost aligned between them, not agreement, not understanding, but recognition of a truth that did not belong entirely to one side. But it did not last, because something else was still there, something that had not yet been addressed. Lily's eyes moved once more to the screen, to the empty space where Ava had sat, and then back to Ethan. "That still does not explain why she sent this to me," she said. The statement was soft, but it cut cleaner than anything else she had said so far. Ethan's silence returned, but it was different now, not controlled, not strategic, but weighted, like he was standing at the edge of something he had chosen not to revisit until now. The seconds stretched, long enough that the hum of the city outside began to fill the space again. Distant sirens, the faint rush of traffic far below, life continuing without pause. Then finally, Ethan spoke again, quieter than before, but unmistakably clear. "Because you were not there," he said. Lily's breath caught, just slightly, enough to register. "You did not see what she became in that moment," he continued. "You only saw what I told you after." The words did not defend him. They did not justify anything. They simply existed, and in doing so, they shifted the weight of everything that had come before. Lily's fingers pressed lightly against the desk, steadying herself, not because she was falling apart, but because something inside her was realigning. "And what did you not tell me?" she asked. This time, the question was not searching. It was precise. Ethan's eyes held hers, and for the first time, there was no attempt to redirect, no attempt to reshape the moment into something easier to hold. Just truth, standing at the edge of being spoken. "That she did not ask for anything in return," he said quietly. The room did not react, but the meaning did. Lily's expression did not break, but something behind it shifted, something deeper than surprise, something closer to understanding. "Not money," Ethan continued. "Not access. Not leverage." His voice lowered slightly, as if the words themselves carried weight. "She only asked for one thing." Lily's gaze did not move. "What?" she asked. Ethan's answer came without hesitation this time, but it did not sound like victory. It sounded like something he had never fully resolved. "That when the truth came back," he said, "it would not come from me." The words settled into the space between them, final, undeniable, and for the first time since the package arrived, Lily understood exactly why her name had been on it. The words did not fade after he said them. They stayed, suspended in the air between them like something that had always been there, but had only now been given a name. And Lily felt the shift settle into her chest with a quiet certainty that could not be undone, not because it was loud, but because it made everything else make sense in a way that left no room for the version of the story she had been living inside. She did not speak right away. She did not need to. Her eyes moved slowly from Ethan to the flash drive, then to the documents, then back to him. And for the first time, she was not looking for reassurance or explanation. She was looking at the structure of what had been built around her, and she could see where it had been shaped, where it had been trimmed, where it had been held together by what had not been said. "So she trusted me," Lily said quietly, not as a question, not even as disbelief, but as a realization forming in real time. Ethan did not correct her. He did not soften it. He simply held her gaze, and that was answer enough. Lily let out a slow breath, her fingers brushing lightly over the edge of the desk again. Grounding, steady, but something in her posture had changed now, something more anchored, more deliberate, like she was no longer standing in someone else's space, but beginning to define her own place within it. "She knew I would listen," Lily continued, her voice low, but no longer uncertain. "Or she knew I would have to." Ethan's expression shifted slightly, not defensive, not dismissive, but acknowledging something he had not said out loud. "She knew you were the only variable she could not predict," he replied. The words were quiet, but they carried weight, and Lily felt them land in a way that did not feel like a compliment, but like a responsibility. She nodded once, slowly, absorbing it. Then her gaze dropped again to the documents, and this time she did not hesitate before picking them up. The pages felt heavier now, not because they had changed, but because she understood what they represented. Not proof for a courtroom, not leverage for a negotiation, but a message, directed, intentional. She flipped through them again, slower this time, reading beyond the surface, noticing details she had not fully processed before, dates that aligned too precisely, signatures that suggested decisions made under pressure, not freedom. "She did not ask for anything," Lily said again, almost to herself, the words echoing Ethan's earlier statement but taking on a different meaning now. Not even to be seen. Ethan's jaw tightened slightly, but he did not interrupt. Lily looked up at him, her expression steady, but something deeper had settled into it now, something that did not belong to doubt anymore. "That is not surrender," she said. "That is choice." The distinction was quiet, but it cut through everything that had been said before. Ethan did not argue. He did not correct her, and that silence spoke louder than anything else he could have offered. Lily placed the documents back down, not carefully this time, not aligned, but still intentional, as if perfection no longer mattered as much as truth. "You told me she walked away," Lily continued, her voice calm, but grounded in something firmer now. But she did not walk away from him. Her eyes held his. She stepped back so he would not be pulled into something he could not understand. Ethan's gaze did not break, but something in it shifted again, something closer to acknowledgement than control. "And you let me believe something else," Lily added, not accusing, not raising her voice, but stating it as fact. Ethan exhaled slowly, the sound quieter now, less controlled. "I told you what was necessary," he said. The words were familiar, structured, but this time they did not hold the same authority. Lily shook her head once, small, but certain. No, she said. You told me what protected your version of it. The sentence landed clean, without force, but it did not need it. The truth had already done the work. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The room held the silence differently now, not as something to be maintained, but as something to move through. Then Lily's gaze shifted again, this time toward the hallway where Noah had disappeared earlier, and her expression softened, not with confusion, but with clarity that carried weight. He hesitates, she said quietly. Ethan's brow tightened slightly. What? Lily's eyes returned to him. When he says my name, she explained. He pauses, just for a second, like he is choosing it instead of knowing it. The observation was small, almost insignificant on its own, but in the context of everything else, it became something else entirely. Ethan did not respond immediately, but the lack of response was not dismissal this time. It was recognition. Lily took a slow breath, her posture straightening again, but not in defense, in decision. That is not confusion, she said. That is memory. The words settled into the room with quiet finality. Ethan's gaze shifted again, briefly, toward the hallway, then back to her, and for the first time, there was no immediate response, no controlled correction, just silence that acknowledged something he had not been willing to name before. Lily nodded slightly, as if confirming it to herself. She did not send this to take anything from me, she said. She sent it so I would understand what I am standing in. Her eyes held his, steady, unwavering now, and what I am standing between. The words did not rise, but they carried further than anything else she had said so far. Because now, the truth was no longer just something she had been given. It was something she had to decide what to do with. And for the first time, that decision did not feel like something Ethan could control. The room did not feel the same anymore, not because anything had physically changed, but because Lily Monroe was no longer standing inside it as someone being guided. She was standing as someone who could see the lines beneath the surface, the places where decisions had been made without her, and the realization settled into her with a calm that did not need to announce itself to be absolute. She did not look at Ethan right away. Instead, she turned slightly, her gaze moving toward the hallway again, toward the quiet space where Noah had disappeared, where a small, steady life continued, unaware that the ground beneath it had already begun to shift. Her steps were slow, deliberate, the soft echo of her heels against the floor no longer uncertain, no longer searching, but purposeful in a way that made each movement feel like a decision. Ethan watched her, but he did not stop her. He did not call her name. And that silence, that choice not to intervene, said more than anything else could have. Lily reached the edge of the hallway and paused, her hand resting lightly against the wall, not for support, but as if grounding herself in something real before stepping further into what now felt like a different space entirely. Noah's door was slightly open. A thin line of light stretched across the floor, soft and steady. She pushed it gently, just enough to see inside. The room was simple, carefully designed, neutral tones, structured order, everything placed where it belonged, but something about it now felt incomplete, like a story that had been edited too cleanly. Noah sat on the floor beside his bed, a small wooden train track spread out in front of him, pieces connected with quiet focus, his fingers moving with the kind of concentration that did not ask questions, only followed what felt familiar. He did not look up right away. Lily stood there for a moment, watching him, not as someone trying to step into his world, but as someone realizing she had never fully understood it. Hey, she said softly. Noah glanced up, his eyes meeting hers, and there it was again, that brief pause, that flicker of something deciding before settling. Hi, he replied. Lily stepped inside, slower now, lowering herself slightly, so she was closer to his level, not towering, not distant, just present. What are you building? She asked. Noah looked back down at the track, adjusting one of the pieces with careful precision. It goes in a circle, he said, but it does not close all the way. Lily's eyes followed the shape he had made, the small gap where the track should have connected but did not, and something about that detail settled deeper than she expected. Why not? She asked gently. Noah shrugged, his shoulders lifting slightly, then falling. Because it is missing a piece, he said simply. The answer was small, but it landed with weight, and Lily felt it in the same place the truth had been settling all night. She nodded slowly, not correcting him, not fixing it, just acknowledging it. Do you know where the piece is? She asked. Noah shook his head. No, he said, but it is not gone. The certainty in his voice was quiet, but absolute, and Lily felt something shift inside her, something aligning in a way that did not need explanation. She reached out slowly, not to change the track, but to rest her hand lightly on the floor beside him, close enough to be present, not close enough to take over. Sometimes, she said softly, pieces are not missing forever. Noah looked at her again, his eyes steady, thoughtful in a way that did not belong to his age, but to something deeper, something learned without being taught. Sometimes they just come back when they are supposed to, he said. Lily did not answer right away. She did not need to. The words settled between them, quiet, complete. After a moment, she stood again, her movements calm, grounded, and this time when she stepped back into the hallway, she did not hesitate. She did not look uncertain. She returned to the kitchen with a different kind of stillness, one that did not belong to control, but to decision. Ethan was where she had left him, standing near the desk, his posture unchanged, but his presence no longer carried the same weight it had before. Lily walked past the island, past the documents, past the flash drive, and stopped a few feet from him, not too close, not distant, just enough space to stand as equals. He remembers, she said quietly. Ethan's gaze shifted to her, sharper now. What are you talking about? Lily held his eyes, steady, unwavering. Not everything, she continued. Not clearly, but enough. The words did not accuse. They did not demand. They simply existed, and in doing so, they changed the direction of everything that came next. Ethan's jaw tightened again, but this time he did not dismiss it. He did not redirect. He just stood there, absorbing it, and for the first time, it looked like he understood that this was no longer a situation he could manage with precision alone. Lily took a slow breath, her shoulders settling, her posture firm. This is not about what you protected, she said. It is about what you replaced. The distinction landed clean, undeniable. Ethan did not respond immediately, but the silence between them no longer belonged to him. It belonged to what had been revealed. Lily's gaze softened just slightly, not in doubt, but in clarity. And now, she added quietly, it is about what comes back. The words did not rush the room. They settled into it, slow and deliberate, like something that had always been waiting for the moment it would no longer be ignored. And Lily Monroe stood there without moving, without needing to, because for the first time since she had walked into this life, she was no longer reacting to it. She was standing inside it with clarity that did not require permission. Ethan did not answer her immediately. His gaze remained on her, steady, controlled, but no longer carrying the same certainty it once did, and that difference, subtle as it was, changed the balance between them in a way that could not be reversed. The city lights beyond the windows continued to flicker, distant and indifferent, but inside the room, everything had shifted into something quieter, heavier, something that did not need noise to be final. You are making this into something it is not, Ethan said at last, his voice measured, but it lacked the precision it once held, as if the structure beneath it had begun to loosen. Lily did not argue. She did not raise her voice. She simply held his gaze, her posture steady, her presence no longer defined by the space around her. No, she said softly. I am seeing it for what it has always been. The words did not challenge him. They did not need to. They simply existed, and in doing so, they removed the need for anything else. Ethan exhaled slowly, his hand lifting briefly to his collar before falling back to his side, a small gesture, but one that did not belong to the version of him the world saw. You think this changes anything, he said. It was not a question. It was a statement, one that had always worked before, one that had always been enough to close a conversation. But this time, it did not land the same way. Lily's expression did not shift. It does not change what happened, she replied. It changes what happens next. The distinction settled between them, quiet but absolute. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Lily turned, not away from him, but toward the island, toward the documents, toward the flash drive, toward everything that had been placed in her hands without explanation but with intention. She reached for the envelope again, her fingers steady, and slid the papers back inside, not as if she were hiding them, but as if she were carrying them forward. Ethan watched her, But he did not stop her. He did not reach for the envelope. And that absence, that lack of control, said more than anything else he could have done. Lily lifted the flash drive last, holding it between her fingers for a brief second before placing it into her coat pocket. The motion simple, final. "Where are you going?" Ethan asked. The question came without force, but it carried something else now, something closer to uncertainty than authority. Lily turned back to him, her gaze steady, her voice calm. "I am not leaving," she said. The answer was not what he expected, and it showed, just slightly, in the way his expression shifted before settling again. "I am staying," she continued, "but not in the version of this that I walked into." The words were quiet, but they held. Ethan's brow tightened. "And what does that mean?" Lily held his gaze for a moment longer, then let it soften, not in doubt, but in clarity. "It means I am not standing between what belongs to him and where it came from," she said. The sentence landed clean, without hesitation, without apology. The hallway remained still behind her, the soft light from Noah's room stretching faintly into the space, a quiet reminder of what all of this had always been about. Ethan's silence returned, but this time it did not feel like control. It felt like something being understood too late to reshape. Lily did not wait for a response. She did not need one. Instead, she stepped past him, her movement calm, grounded, not rushed, not uncertain, and for the first time, the space around her did not feel like something she had to fit into. It felt like something she could move through on her own terms. She paused briefly at the hallway, glancing once more toward Noah's door, where the light still glowed, steady, unchanged, and something in her expression settled, not into sadness, not into anger, but into something stronger. Decision without noise. Then she continued, her steps quiet but certain, the echo of them softer now. No longer searching for belonging, but carrying it. Behind her, Ethan remained where he stood, the room around him unchanged, but the meaning of it no longer the same. And somewhere beyond the walls of that penthouse, beyond the curated silence and controlled narratives, a truth that had waited quietly for years had finally found its way back, not through force, not through confrontation, but through the one thing that had never been rewritten: the choice to see it.